to break it to you, but sex education of the past failed us. Because birds and bees, they don't fuck. Welcome to Birds and Bees Don't Fuck, a podcast where we learn exactly how bad our formative sex education, or lack thereof, really was. I'm your host, Arielle Zadok. I'm a producer, intimacy coordinator, and sex educator. My guest today is a sex scholar, astrologist, author, and coach. Welcome to the show, Nadège! Yay! Hi! I am so excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, there's so many places we can go. But sex scholar, when I learned that was your title and what your specialty was, I was like, oh my God, I love this. It was an immediate sex scholar. What a cool name.
Oh, I know. And it's funny because when I started my business, I was trying to think of what would I call myself, a sexologist or a coach or a writer, and sex scholar felt the best because a big part of what I do is writing, and I love writing and research. And I love that word scholar. Yeah. It's sexy to me. So it just felt right.
Oh my God. It's like a hot teacher thing.
It is like and right? I have a whole teacher fetish.
Yay!
So it really is full circle, you know?
Oh, we love a teacher fetish. Hot for teacher. And it's so I relate to that so deeply when it comes to what do I even call myself?
Yeah.
Because I'm a holistic health coach and I'm a sex educator. I'm an intimacy coordinator. I'm a producer, all these different things. And you're like, how do I boil this down into something that feels aligned, that's accurate to where my qualifications and certifications and education, because of course, all these different things have different ethical levels of what you can and cannot do as well.
Oh, for sure.
A lot of people don't realize that, you can only call yourself certain things from an ethical perspective. And so it really does become what do I, when you have multiple, you're like, what do I do?
Oh, I know. And there's never really a perfect answer to that, is there? There's just the best one you can come up with, and that's it.
Yeah. And it changes too, throughout your career and where you're at, because we change.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So before you were a sex scholar, where did you grow up?
Here, Los Angeles.
Oh, you did?
Born and raised in Los Angeles.
Wow.
True unicorn. The Valley, 818.
Hey.
I love the Valley so much. When people who move to Los Angeles or just maybe don't live in Los Angeles say that the Valley isn't Los Angeles, I'm like, you're totally wrong.
I mean, it is.
It is to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm from. Good old Southern California.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was your initial sex education like in schools?
Terrible. Non-existent.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom was my sex educator. So before I went to high school, she busted into my room one day and was like, we're going to talk about, I don't even think she said the birds and the bees, but I already knew that phrase. But she just sat down and I think she just started talking. And most of our conversation, from what I remember, was just how to not get pregnant, how to be safe. There was never an assumption that I wasn't going to have sex, but I think that was more because of my personality. My mom was a very shy person, and most of my family are very quiet people, artistic, quirky. And then I'm just where is a group of people? I want to meet new people. I want a stage. I want, I was just always, according to astrology, I was an actor in my past life.
Ooh.
And so I think that's why I like being in front of crowds and can so easily do that and do public speaking and events, because there's some part of me that really connects to it. But anyway, in high school, I was just really extroverted. And my mom was just like, we got to let her know how to protect herself, because I was very impulsive and loved people. So yeah. So she was all about safer sex, condoms, birth control. I remember telling her once I found out what birth control was, when I was like 14, when she's telling me this, I was like,
Mhm.
I should get on that. And my mom was just like, well, when do you plan to start, you know? And I was like, the second someone wants me, I want to do it. Was
Yeah.
like the frame in my mind. And then when I got to high school, I think it was sophomore year that we had the proper sex ed training. I went to a Catholic high school.
Ooh.
So, and like nuns.
So proper.
Yeah, like nuns and shit, you
Oh,
know?
God.
And proper, like having to be proper,
Yeah.
which again, I think my parents did on purpose because I was so rambunctious and they were like, a nun will have to do something like for this kid. And their sex ed training was only abstinence,
Oh, yeah.
abstinence only, horrifying images of the worst possible thing that could happen to like your skin if you get an STI, like warts galore. And then randomly, do you remember Good Charlotte? The band Good Charlotte. I mean, they're not even got there. I think they're still doing things.
Yeah.
They had a music video and it was like it was a song about like sadness and overcoming. But anyway, it was one of those music videos where they had like real people holding up like cards saying a bit of their story or whatever.
Yeah.
And one of the cards was this girl who had gotten an STI or something sexual. And she was at our sex ed, like she was like a special speaker.
Oh, wow.
And I remember thinking that was really cool, but they didn't teach us anything about, we didn't learn about condoms. I don't remember. I don't think. I think it was only abstinence.
Yeah, I can't imagine them teaching you condoms.
No.
from everything that I'm aware of. Yeah, not from the nuns.
Even though the rumors of my school had it that one of our nuns was a prostitute before she became a nun.
Oh, that's a real Whoopi Goldberg story.
Yeah, she was allegedly I never asked, but I want to believe that because I think that's badass.
I like that story. I like that story for her. As long as the nun move was an empowering one, I like that story for her.
They were very nice nuns. It was a great school, but yeah, I mean, Catholicism and sex positivity, I don't feel like are usually, they're not really getting along. So, but yeah, it was a friendly and censored sex education situation.
Friendly and censored. That's a new way to describe it. I like that one. And okay, so when you were saying, as soon as someone wants to do that with me, I want to do that.
Oh yeah.
I was similar to that as well. And I'm curious what your perspective on that was. Like, what was your mindset? What was your reasoning for that?
At the time, I think I was thirsty and horny on, wanting to be liked. It did not come from a place of sexual empowerment or confidence. It came from a subconscious understanding that sex would bring me value. Being sexy would make me liked. Yeah. Being sexy would make men like me. And there was growing up, I really struggled with wanting men to like me, wanting their approval, wanting to be loved by them, which is funny because now I'm very queer. And if I date a guy, it's so selective. But me in high school was truly like, does someone love me? Someone please love me. Yeah. And so I think that's why my mom was proactive. I think that's why they put me in a Catholic school. Yeah. Because they were like, the Catholics aren't fucking.
Right. Or we don't think they are.
I think they are. And I hope they are because you could have great sex regardless of your spiritual beliefs. But
well, they're finding different ways to fuck. Like, putting a penis in a vagina and like having a friend bounce on a bed. Like that they're still fucking. They're just not calling it that.
Yep. Actually, it's kind of scandalous. The chapel at my high school, when I was a freshman, there were a couple of junior boys who were like sexy, trying to get at the freshmen. And I learned that like there was this one guy who would take girls to the chapel, which is just scandalous. So and he would like bang in the chapel. I mean, and like, because I guess the nuns didn't think that people were doing stuff, and so they like didn't patrol the chapel, and so then people were like getting blowjobs in the chapel. Hell yeah. And that was it would be hell yeah if like girls were also getting like head in the chapel.
Yeah, but of course they weren't.
It was mostly just like this one guy getting head, allegedly in the chapel. It was just Chad. He tried
Just Chad
to
getting
get
head
me
in
to
the
give him
chapel.
head in the chapel. And I actually told it, we were like on AIM back in the day.
Oh,
And I was like,
yeah.
I'll meet you in the chapel after class. And then I never went because I
Hell
was so
yeah.
scared. It was
Yeah.
more of fear,
Of
but I love
course,
that you were
but
like, good
still.
for you, girl,
Yeah.
not giving Chad head in the chapel.
Fuck Chad.
Fuck
Not
Chad.
actually fuck Chad, but
Yeah.
fuck
Fuck
Chad.
by not fucking Chad.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Oh,
So all that
man.
to say, at that time, like just really wanting that validation and learning inexplicitly in some way from culture and society and media that like sex would help me get it.
Yeah.
Being sexy would mean being loved.
Mhm.
And it was not true and led to like a lot of hurt, and a lot of perceived rejection just because like my expectation was never the result that I got, but I never told people what my expectation was.
Yeah.
Right. So
you
then
and everybody
why,
else, that's like one of the number one reasons why people are so upset all the time, because you're putting false expectations or unrealistic expectations or any expectations on another human being and not sharing that with them as an open conversation.
Totally.
And then they can't meet your expectations and you're like, wow.
Yeah. And they didn't even know. You get 0% of what you don't ask for. Like,
so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting because with Catholicism and purity culture, from everything that I know of it, and I am a Jew, so
Oh,
this
me
is
too.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Your Jewish parents sent you to a
Catholic
oh
school
my God.
because I honestly think I was so rambunctious and extroverted and thirsty and just
they were like, the Jesus people know what to do.
Yeah,
with
they
her.
were like, they will, like, there's Jesus camp for a reason. Like, and they were right. I didn't really I still found ways to kiss with people and be, slutty in my way, but it never happened at my high school.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
Which was actually
funny.
kind of nice because I don't think anyone knew. Like, I didn't get a chance to be slut shamed in high school by the people I went to high school with, or even the people I hung out with outside of high school, because I don't go to their school. So if people think I'm slutty, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's fine.
Tell your Chad.
Yeah. Tell your Chad. My Chad is just over here not getting blowjobs.
Yeah. I'm loving this. Also, love to all the Chads.
Yeah, we love you, Chad. Just don't be a dickhead, Chad.
Yeah, just don't be an ass, Chad.
There are multiple ways to be a Chad in this world.
Yeah, give head back, Chad.
Give head back, Chad. Oh boy. But okay, so where I was going with that is that sex and value, right?
Yeah.
So in purity culture, for people with vulvas, if you give your sex away, then your value has diminished and you're not worth anything and all this and that. And so it's interesting because I definitely understand that other perspective as well of like, you get your worth through sex. Like I've definitely experienced that as well.
And especially now being empowered, I can get it through sex, but yeah, totally.
But like the 90s version, the 80s version,
teenage
right?
Nadège.
Like, teenage version is different. And for me, so I wanted to have sex because I just wanted to experience it.
Yeah.
I was like, and my best friend at the time, she was having sex with her boyfriend. And I was just like, I just want to know, I just want to get it out of the way. Like for me, a lot of
I felt
things,
that too.
Yeah. Like my first kiss didn't mean anything. The first time I had sex didn't mean anything.
Amen.
Like a couple of those other things, it was just like, this is like an experience that I want to have. So let's just get this out of the way.
Yep.
Was that right? Was that wrong? I don't know, but I didn't necessarily feel like I actually ghosted the guy. First of all, I was 16 and he was 21. That was pretty problematic on his part. But it also, as me, myself, like not looking at this from an adult perspective, but from a self, I always knew where I was at. And in the end, I wound up ghosting that guy. I was like, okay, thanks. Bye.
Yep. It's so funny because I did that too to the guy. It's funny because the first time I had sex was with my girlfriends, not like girlfriends as in we were in a relationship, but just like my friends who were girls.
Yeah.
I didn't count that.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was, I just thought, oh, we all got drunk, whatever. And then when I was 19, that was when I had sex for the first time. And it was similarly with someone who was older, someone who I ghosted. I didn't care.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I counted that as losing my virginity. And then I started studying sex in college and was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the way that I'm saying that I should correct that to say the first time that I had penis and vagina penetrative sex.
I mean,
because I'd been having digital sex and I was getting head and all those things. I
Oh,
was
for
getting
sure. Who's to say?
What's really interesting is that I definitely remember the first time that I gave someone a blowjob, and it was like it was it was like one of my good friends. He was older as well. I'm always with older people.
Love that for
I'm
you,
an
girl.
old soul, so give me them oldies.
I have a total. I mean, we talked about teacher fetishes. I also have a mommy fetish.
Yeah.
So I'm here for
all the
age
things.
play is fun.
Age play is fun. It is.
Yeah.
I don't like to go younger. There's something.
I love to go younger.
See, I don't, because I'm like, I just feel like your mom, and I don't want to be the mom.
I am very happy being someone's mommy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's also like I'm a producer, so I'm always in that decision making. I'm always mommy to a whole bunch of men on set primarily and some women, but like I'm always in that position of power. And so it is that, so much of kink and BDSM is that power dynamic and is that place. So that's why 100%. I think I've always been, I'm a Leo. So I'm always having that leader kind of mindset. So, that's a whole other part of the conversation, which we can actually transition into, because you are a sexy astrologer as well.
Yeah. I wrote a book about sextrology, which is how we met.
Yeah.
Arielle went to my event for my book.
It was so good. It was so good.
But definitely check it out. It's a #1 bestseller. But no, I love astrology. Astrology was my spiritual practice, actually, also since I was a teenager. My best friend at the time, who was a Leo, she was like, let's go to Barnes & Noble. There's this thing called astrology. We need to read about it. And so we would just go to Barnes & Noble and like read and read and read. And I just always kept up with it. I really loved it. Spoke to me more than Judaism, more than other things. And when I became a sex scholar and a sex coach, I started using astrology with my clients because for me, it would help them, because I could see things and be like, oh, this is why that happened when you were a kid. Your Black Moon Lilith is here. It straddles your Jupiter. This is how you expand. This is why you think this way about things. This is why you don't get along with your mom and why that's fucking up your marriage. Like I could see these things. And so I love astrology. And you're totally right. As a Leo, you guys are so good at leadership, so good at responsibility. And in fact, studies actually show if you're good at responsibility, then you probably like giving responsibility away in the bedroom.
Oh,
you like submission.
I'm also a Virgo moon and a Virgo. I'm a Virgo and Venus in retrograde. So I'm like super organized that I'm like, listen, if I have any chance of experiencing pleasure, I got to be able to just let go. But I have to be able to trust you to like handle 100%. Your shit. And like, Chad, you're not.
Yeah, truly.
But that's, a lot of people with vulvas, they're challenged with that.
Yeah,
but
it's hard.
And one thing I love about astrology, once I really started getting into like my own birth charts and like, I was always like dabbling.
Yeah.
But one thing that I really, really loved, especially having a Venus in Virgo in retrograde, which like for context, that means that we are almost always single. We're so just like Venus in Virgo is really discerning, but then you throw that shit in retrograde and like, maybe I'll partner up when I'm like 80, like it's so much to understand there.
But everyone who partners with you levels up.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I am a good luck
You're like
chuck.
an amplifier.
I'm literally a good luck chuck. Every single person I've been in any sort of serious or long-term relationship with has married the next person. There may have been one person in between. Every single one of them is with their forever partner right now. Every single one of them. So like, you're welcome, y'all.
And astrology is real. Like that is 100% how that placement like shows up and operates, you know? So it's great that you're an intimacy coordinator and doing all of this work and sex education because it's what you also meant to do, like with a placement like that.
Yeah. And that's, when you get into astrology later in life, it gives you the ability to have them, like, if you're self-aware, then you like know what's going on in your life. And then you work with someone like yourself and you learn all these things and you're like, oh my God, this so makes sense. Yeah. Now I understand why this has been a challenge, or now I understand why this pattern keeps coming up. And I have an astrologer that I work with. And one thing she said to me was that like, these patterns are like the Guggenheim Museum. And so you're going the spiral staircase in the middle of the museum. So you're going to be going up in the same place, basically. Like these patterns are going to be there, but every time you approach it again, you're up a level.
Yep.
So like, and it was such a beautiful picture. And like, I do love how it's just like, okay, you have a pattern coming up. You might feel this way. How can you protect yourself, or how can you be more aware, or, you know, and how have you, like, sextrology, so fucking interesting. I love going into this book. It is so much fun. And I have pulled it for other people. I'm like, hang on, let me just go check the book real quick.
That's what it's for. That's what it's for.
Yeah. And so talk to me about developing this book.
Yeah. You know, when I realized I wanted to write this book, I mean, I'd already been reading so many astrology books, and the one thing I never saw was sexual subconscious. Just as a scholar myself, I'm really, really fascinated with like your erotic shadow, your erotic subconscious. If anybody is familiar with Carl Jung, he has that famous quote, your subconscious, until you discover what your conscious patterns are, your subconscious patterns are, it'll run your life and you'll call it fate.
Ooh.
And it's very true.
Yeah.
And I see this a lot, like when I do sex coaching, when I work with my clients, that's like the big thing that we're kind of working through and uncovering the entire time, because everything with sex is pretty subconscious. We don't get education. We don't get any social or behavioral training, which we really should. We don't, like, sex is a social behavior before it is a reproductive behavior. For everyone who learned that you have drives to have sex, to have babies, no. You have drives to have sex because it's a social behavior. Humans are social beings. You're playing with other adults. But we don't learn how to be social like that. We don't learn to think of sex in this way. And so we have a lot of subconscious, really nasty crap that's driving the car of our sex life. And when you become aware of it, you drive the car. And so when I knew I wanted to write a book, in the book, every single astrology sign has their erotic subconscious. And that was really fun to develop. And then when I was doing that, I was like, okay, well, what else can really help people? And what do I like about astrology? So I put compatibility in there. And then I also went over your body, like how to connect to your body according to astrology and body astrology. So it was super fun. But that piece about the erotic subconscious was kind of what sparked the whole thing, because it's something I really love to work with and see. And I think it's one of the biggest ways you can have a huge breakthrough in a small amount of time.
Yeah, which, to be honest, most people are looking for that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like, that is really hard to achieve. And with all this stuff also, we're not getting media literacy, and so much of our messaging. And I mean, even on this podcast, I've interviewed multiple people that are like, I learned from movies. Like, where else am I
learned from movies. I mean, how do you think I knew that, like, sex equals love, which it doesn't? But like,
but like, where else are we getting these messages? And we're not taught any sort of media literacy. So it's the media, it's how your family reacts to it, it's how your religion reacts. Like, we're getting all of these messages that seep into our subconscious, and you have just your natural placements of where things are. Like, it's a mess.
It's hard.
It's a mess all up in there.
We need the help. And,
we do.
You know, I'm glad people like us exist, because
truly
more people are needed, and more people, I think, really become a part of this movement every day, which is what's so beautiful too.
Yeah. It really is. And it's just to see the progress, even in the last like 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I mean, when I started my sexual journey, but like, I was listening to Dr. Ruth, like in the dark, under the bed. Like, I would be like sneaking Dr. Ruth and all the HBO shows. So like, I was kind of always very interested in this stuff.
I was interested, but I was like I did not find Dr. Ruth until later, when I was an adult. Like, when I was a kid, there was just a kid/teenager. There was really nothing before college. College was there was just me and my wild ass. Like,
you know, God, I remember in college, The first time I hooked up with a boy that had an uncircumcised penis. And I didn't even know that that was a thing because I'm a Jew. So
Yeah.
like I didn't even, and every guy that I had hooked up with, I lived outside of New York City. So like
Yeah.
everyone that I had hooked up with up until that point, up until I was 18,
Yeah.
they all had circumcised penises.
Yep.
And I hooked up with this guy in the dark. We just did some hand play.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what was going on or what
Because
was
it's
like
so much
wrong with
easier
him.
to give a hand job when they're not
Yeah,
circumcised.
but it also like, but it feels different.
Oh, it feels
like
completely
it
different.
moves
I
in a
remember
different
my
way.
first,
Mhm.
it was, this is the like maybe not right thing to say, but it was scary.
Yeah,
Because I mean, yeah, exactly what you're saying.
and we
Like,
were in
am
the
I doing
dark.
this right? Oh my
Like I didn't
God.
even see it, so I didn't even know what I was touching or what was going on, and I was just like, "What's wrong with him? Like, is he like what?" The fuck is going on? And so I went back to my dorm and my roommate and her boyfriend at the time were there. And I was like, guys, I don't know what the fuck just happened.
And what'd they
And they were
say?
like, he's uncircumcised. Cause I think her boyfriend was probably, cause he was from also like a small town
Oh.
upstate New York. So I think he was probably also
Oh.
uncircumcised. So
Yeah.
then of course we got on little Google. I mean, it wasn't even Google then, it was Internet Explorer.
Oh my God, I remember the days.
Yeah, good old
Oh,
days of Internet Explorer. And like, I
yeah.
just went down a rabbit hole of
Yeah.
uncircumcised penises because
Yeah.
no one taught me that before.
Oh, yeah.
And I had no idea
Yeah.
what I was touching
Oh, totally.
or even
No.
how to describe it. So it's
Yeah.
just like, man.
Yeah.
And now at least we're talking about it. And by the way, there's a whole other conversation to be had around the fact that it's genital mutilation. And because we do it
Yeah.
in the US, we're not calling it that. But like
Yeah.
that's literally what it is. So
Yeah.
that's like a whole other ballgame. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so complicated.
It is so complicated. And
Yeah.
I think honestly, as a Jew, like I'm not religious at all, but like
Yeah.
growing up as a Jew in a conservative house, that was one of the
Oh,
things.
that's like a ceremony.
It
Oh
is.
my God.
Oh my God. Yeah.
100%. I mean, I knew I went to those
Of course.
ceremonies.
Yeah. A bris.
Yeah.
That's like part of,
Yeah.
8 days old and whatever.
Yeah.
And so for me growing up, I was like, I cannot make that decision for another human being. And also, like, how much pressure as a Jew to do that and not do that. I mean, as I got
No,
older,
it
I
is
was
a
like,
lot of
there's
pressure in our culture,
100%.
100%.
It's just
Yeah,
expected.
it
It's
is.
not even a question. It's just a
Yeah.
requirement. And it's like,
Yeah.
listen, that's not my body.
Yeah.
How could I? And especially as a person with a vulva and a woman, I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't do that. I can't imagine doing that to my child. I
Yeah.
just cannot. And so that was one of the things that led me to like really not want kids because I'm like, I can't make that decision. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I don't want kids,
Oh,
but that was one of
100%.
them,
No, totally. And it's so funny because I remember as when I was younger and going to brisks, I wouldn't care, didn't think about it. When I was older, my friends started having kids and I did go to a couple. I remember feeling uncomfortable and kind of standing in the back and thinking to myself, like, what do I think about this?
Yeah.
Because before it was just a standard and
Just
it was the
assumed.
norm. And like you said, like it's rite of passage, you have to do it
Mhm.
unquestioned. And now as an adult, I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I had a son. And like, I'm not particularly religious either. I love being Jewish, but
Yeah.
I relate way more to my crystals and my oracle
Mhm.
deck. And
Same.
that's far more how I connect to spirituality, and astrology, obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what I would do. Like I might do it because it could like mean something to my partner if they're also Jewish or
Mhm.
I mean, I wouldn't do it for the community that I could care less about,
Yeah.
but if my partner really cared about it, then I would probably do it. But yeah, no, it's something I haven't really thought about, but it is yeah,
I
it's
thought a
just
lot
one of
about
those
it.
things. No, but it is true. It's like one of those things to
yeah.
really think about that we don't think about. And
Mhm.
like the question of body autonomy is really, really layered.
Mm.
And cultural norms, really, really layered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also just there's a lot to be said about what we accept from X culture, but we reject from Y culture.
Exactly.
Like, why is it okay here, but not okay there? Yes,
Yeah.
because age and maybe gender and things like that. But it's just like, there's a lot of stuff there. Like
Yeah.
that it's a really layered thing that I think most people don't even want to they don't want to even think about because it's like I'm thinking about it. I'm never going to have a kid, I don't think. And so like and these are all the feelings that I have about it as a person who's not going to be in that situation. And imagine the people who are in that situation. It's so much easier to just not think about it and just do it. And then
Yeah.
like, you know what, we'll deal with this. We'll have this conversation when they get older or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, how we grow up and these religious beliefs and how they impact our body and
Yeah.
how we treat our body is like, whoo, boy.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's a big conversation because
Mhm.
we just assume things are normal and we don't question them.
Yeah.
And you could do whatever you want with your body, but you should be questioning things, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Critical
Yeah.
thinking.
Like, do you want to do that? Is that okay with you?
Mhm. And again, these are not conversations that we are traditionally taught to have.
Mm-mm.
And I mean, even when you talk to mostly men, but like older cis straight men, and they're like,
Yeah.
I don't even know like what even is consent and how do I have that
Yeah.
conversation? And there are really sexy ways
Yeah.
to ask about consent. It doesn't have to be this like methodical
Yeah.
um what is the word I'm looking for? Like surgical. I don't know if that's the word
Yeah,
I'm
but
looking
I
for, but
do
you know what I
think
mean?
that that vibe is kind of what some people think though of like if I start asking for consent and make that a part of like my sexual routine, am I being surgical with sex when I just want
Mhm.
to be in the moment? Am I being too methodical? And I mean, I'd say to that, like, you have to, if your first way of doing it is going to be surgical, methodical, then fucking do it that
Fine,
way
fine.
and get over the uncomfortability of this new habit. And then you'll find ways to make it sexy and you'll soothe into it just like any other skill because
Yeah.
sex is a skill, communication is a skill. And so you have to get uncomfortable and be weird to get better. But and then I totally agree, there's so many sexy ways to like check in, establish consent, understand all of those things. But the first step might be being weird and being like, is this okay? I'm robotic. Are you okay? Like, but do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I mean, all these things get so much easier the more you do it.
Yeah.
There is a buddy of mine, I was talking to him about this and about consent and everything. And he's a guy around our age.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't get it, man. There's nothing sexier than a woman saying, yes, I want this. Like,
Yeah.
really? Me? You want me to do that
Yeah.
to you? You do? Yay!
Oh,
Like that's so
100%.
affirming. And so
100%.
like how can we shift the conversation of consent around like, oh, it's so like surgical and methodical, whatever, and like it really takes you out of the mood to being the reality of it where it's like you're getting a fuck yes. There is
Yeah.
nothing more exciting than someone saying, I want you. I
Totally.
want you to touch me there. I want you to do this to me or that to me. Like that's fucking hot.
Yeah. Oh, it 100% is. I mean, I think the only thing people can do is take the risk and start making the changes and
Mm.
experience it for themselves. Because if someone isn't doing anything out of an assumption that something's going to not be sexy or not be fun, you don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't tried it. And
Yeah.
just like your friend said, it is so hot. It's one of the hottest things for someone to say that they want you.
Yeah.
Like there have been times where people have pursued me and they weren't what I would consider my type, but you know what was hot about them? They really fucking wanted me.
Yes.
And then they would make efforts and show me
Mm.
that they wanted me. And I would be like, you're not usually my type, but I want to go out with you. I'm excited to see you again because
Yeah.
you want me.
You're cultivating this erotic energy between the two of you. Like
Yeah.
it's work. All of this stuff is
Yeah.
work. And it's not always going to make somebody want to be with you or anything like that. But
No.
like there is so much to be said about making an effort. Like this
Yeah.
whole hard to get and play coy and wait to
Yeah.
like fuck
Oh,
that.
it's so annoying.
It's
Yeah. Who has
so
time?
old. Like I don't
Yeah.
listen. If you don't want to be here, go away.
Yeah.
You have a choice. I have a choice. I want to be here. I want to
Yeah.
show up.
Yeah.
I want you to be showing up for me. And that
Yeah.
is a turn on for everybody because all of us want to be wanted. Same thing that what you were saying
Mhm.
earlier with sex and sexuality and like to a degree it's not our worth, but like giving that exchange, that sexual exchange and being wanted and wanting,
Yeah.
we all want to be wanted. And so when someone
Absolutely.
is like, I want you, you're
It's
like,
so
yeah,
nice.
fuck
Oh,
yeah.
totally. And I mean, the only other thing that can like be a tip to help in these situations is like try to talk about sex before you have sex.
Yes.
That's a
Out of the
great
bedroom.
way. Yeah, outside of the bedroom. That's a great way. Like if you feel uncomfortable or quirky or weird or like a loser for talking
Mm-hmm.
about consent in the moment, well, that's totally fair and normal to feel that way. Talk about consent before you have sex with your lover or your new lover. And
Mm.
two great questions that I think we all should be asking ourselves is like, if you were my new lover, I'd be like, how do you look and sound when you're having a good time during
Ooh,
sex? And
yeah.
how do you look and sound when you're not having a good time, when you're struggling? Let
Mm.
me know.
Mm-hmm.
That is a great consent conversation to have before you have sex with someone. That can help establish a lot of great foundations. So that way, when you're in the bedroom, like for example, I can be pretty quiet when I'm enjoying myself. But like if I'm quiet and someone doesn't know that that actually means I've surrendered, I've had a good time, I'm having a good time,
Yeah.
they might interrupt the moment and check in, which is good. We like
We
that.
like a check-in.
But again, like going back to that whole it ruins the moment, if you have these conversations ahead of time, you have a little bit more at your disposal for how to gauge a situation.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that people can have pretty good intuitions. So also trust your gut. If you need to check in, if you feel like you need to check in, you probably
Yeah,
should. And a
absolutely.
great way to do that is, oh, do you want water?
Ooh,
And
yeah.
then slows down the moment. Oh, let me get you some water. How are you feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Like again, but you only develop those skills when you take the risk and you're like, what? Do you like, is my dick okay?
Yeah, you gotta be you gotta be
Like
weird.
you
You
gotta
gotta
be
be
weird
weird to get there.
first.
Yes.
So if you talked about consent and it was weird and you're uncomfortable, gold star.
Good.
Good job.
Fucking high
Good job,
fives.
Chad.
Yeah, good job, Chad. Yeah, and I had a lover that he would say, "Are you still having fun?"
I
And I
love
loved that. I mean, he was the best. We had the
that.
absolute best
Oh,
fucking
that's
sex.
such a good
Yeah, he would
question.
just say, "Are you having fun?" Like,
Yeah.
I'm still having fun. Are you still having fun?" And he
Yeah.
would also say things like, "We don't have like we have nowhere to be. We have nowhere
Oh,
to
I
be.
love that.
We're just here to have fun. We can stop."
Yeah.
Like, and those
Yeah.
are all really
And
good
that's
things to
consent
say.
right there,
That's
like
consent right there. Yeah.
it isn't like, can I stick my dick in you or
Mm-hmm.
like whatever you think it
Yeah.
is. It's more like that. Like,
Yeah.
I love that question. Are you still having
Yeah.
fun?
Is
Because
this
there
okay?
actually have
Yeah.
been many times, especially before when I was younger, where like I would just be having penetrative sex with someone and it would be going on for a long time and I would be done,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
wouldn't say it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, months later, still dating the same person, I would find out that, like, he would be like, oh, we do like penetration lasts really long. And I'd be like, well, it sounds like, but do you like that? And he'd be like, no. Do
No.
you like that?
No.
Like it's like he's just trying to please me. I'm just trying to
Mm-hmm.
please him. No one's fucking talking. Like it's
Yeah.
silly.
And it's so performative.
It's
And
yeah.
it's based off of everything we see and hear from the media.
Yeah.
Media
Yeah.
literacy. It's important.
Yeah.
And that's, another thing that intimacy coordinators are really, we can't really push for it because we don't want to disrupt the creative, but we are in a
Mm.
place of influence where we can say, that's not really what happens for most people. Or,
Yeah.
this can be a little bit of a damaging storyline or whatever. Obviously, they're very sensitive conversations and you really have to feel
Yeah.
out your production team. And there's a very specific way to go about making those
Mm.
suggestions and seeing who's
But that
open.
shit is
But
important because
it's
I
so
remember when
important.
everyone was like, this was Bridgerton season one, which by
Mm.
the way, love Bridgerton, love
Hmm.
Shonda, like you all are amazing. But Bridgerton season one, like I had so many friends who were just like, this is the hottest thing. I love it. Nah. Have you watched it? Have you watched it? And I'm like, okay. So I go to watch it. And I remember like all the news breaking intimacy coordinators. This is
Hmm.
mind blowing, groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And I watched season one and I'm like, heavy petting, lots of penetration. What is groundbreaking here?
Yeah.
Like it is groundbreaking that they had intimacy coordinators on set. I think
Hmm.
that's wonderful and needed.
Yeah.
But the representation of the sex was not anything novel,
Yeah.
not anything groundbreaking, and
Hmm.
perpetuated all of the same problematic representations we've seen before, which isn't the fault, I don't think, of the show,
Yeah.
because you can't blame one show for the entire structure
It's the
of
whole system.
society and the
Yeah.
system. And, you know, But I remember watching that show and then all my friends freaking out. And then I finally watched it and they were like, what did you think? And I was like, sex isn't like that gonna be that great. I don't think, if they're just kissing and then they go right into, I'm also just like remembering from, like, I watched it a few years ago, so I don't remember specifics, but I do remember thinking like, this looks like regular, you know, representation, P and V,
Mhm.
you know, missionary.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. What would be really groundbreaking is showing a sex scene where they don't do penetration and everyone comes and has a good time.
Exactly.
I think that, like, we
That would be
put
groundbreaking.
penetration on a big pedestal,
Mhm.
and it doesn't need to be that way. Like, on average, I think it takes 7 minutes for like an orgasm to happen from penetration, maybe 13. I'm trying to remember the
I think
statistic.
it's actually less than that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I think it's closer to like
exactly.
3 to 5 minutes or something like that. But then if you look at, I mean, if we really want to get into it, then you look at the arousal timeline for a person with a vulva, and now you're looking at about 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's the whole, I did a video about this. I'm a car person, but I did a video about this where it's like people with vulvas are like classic cars and people with penises are more like electric cars. Electric cars, like you're in, you can get in, you pretty much, you get in, you go, you're not going to last as long, but you know, you're in, you're out, fine. People with vulvas are more like classic cars where like, you got to start each one in a different way. You can't go rushing out of that garage. You have to let them warm up. You got to check the fluids. You got to do all this. You got to do all that. It's a lot more particular and it takes a lot more time, but then you can last a lot longer.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, understanding that bodies are different and like, good Lord, I don't think I've ever seen that in a TV show.
No, and that would be groundbreaking.
It would. That would be, I agree with you. That would be groundbreaking. And I think the thing that was groundbreaking about Bridgerton was, first of all, that was not the first intimacy coordinator at all, by a long shot. It was the first time that more and more people were talking about it, but not the first I see on a show. I think it was probably because it was showing more of those moments of buildup than we're used to seeing. Like there was a scene, I actually had to go over this scene in one of my IC classes, just in terms of like how they told that story. And I don't remember what the storyline was, but it was this scene where they were still, I think, in secret or something like that. And they were both at this art gallery staring at this painting, and how they were slowly bringing their hands together to like barely touch, and how their breath was changing and all of that stuff. And I think that part is groundbreaking because we don't see those cues. Just like you said, what do you sound and look like when you're having a good time? And so that's the stuff that ICs are thinking of. It's like, how do we build in these characters these physical cues that we're now getting more aroused or escalating a situation? But that's what's happening in all of us too. So like, how can you, and this is all a part of emotional intelligence, to be able to like read someone else's body language. And we should never be assuming. Again, the questions are good, but it's like, what's the breath doing? What are the eyes doing? Are they looking away from you? Are they like, when you're having these conversations, are they avoiding you? Are they avoiding touch? Like, what's going on?
100%. I love that.
Yeah. I wish we could have more emotional intelligence classes. Maybe I should teach them.
No, honestly, we should.
Yeah, that is. I'm like, I am thinking about stuff like that.
No, there's a sex educator that I know who, she does a lot of sex ed on Instagram, and then she also goes to high schools. And one of the things that she does in her programming with high schools is she's like, I'm going to teach you guys how to be social together.
Yeah.
Because we need that. I mean, I don't know if you ever watched, it's such a good show, the show Love on the Spectrum.
Oh, I've seen it a couple of times. Yeah. It's so sweet.
It's so good.
It's
and
so
for anyone who hasn't watched the show, it's all about people dating who are on the autism spectrum. And they have a woman who comes in who specifically works with autistic adults and helps them learn social cues and teaches social cues. And so I love this show. And so I've watched every season. And I love this woman because when I watch her teach people, which we all need this, because I'm watching this show and I'm just like, all people need this, not just people with autism, because a lot of y'all don't have autism, but you have problems.
Yes.
I say this out of love, but I see it. And so watching this show is so sweet because it's teaching people like, oh, these cues mean maybe no. These cues mean check in. These cues mean yes. And then also teaching people like what the societal expectations are for like dating and things like that, which obviously could be better and we could always be improving, but even having like a foundation for just behavior, it's so important.
Yeah.
100%.
And again, it's like all of these different forms of literacy,
Yeah.
and it is the piece that we're missing. And I know when I think about myself with sex education, one thing I'm really passionate about is, I mean, obviously edutainment, but communication and helping people learn how to communicate all these things. How do we talk about STIs? How do we talk about pleasure? How do we talk about boundaries? How do we talk about emotional intelligence and cues and all these things? Because no one has ever taught us how to talk about anything.
Absolutely.
About our feelings, that they even, I mean, the fact that you're allowed to have boundaries.
Yeah. Oh God, I learned that lesson late.
Oh,
like
didn't we all?
missed a meeting? Jeez.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Now I'm like leading the meetings on that one. But
exactly.
No, that was, how were you with boundaries growing up? Because I was a damn shit show.
Oh, total shit show.
Yeah.
Total shit show. And so much of it is because our parents taught us how to override our boundaries, because our parents are always saying, because I said so, or because you have to, or you can't leave the dinner table before your plate is finished, or whatever. Like all of our parents gave us different messagings around this, but every person in a position of authority around us growing up, they didn't mean to, but they all taught us how to override our own boundaries and indicators and internal red flags. And so a big part of helping people with boundaries, and a big part of like intimacy coordinating, for example, with a whole subset of people that are taught yes and always the answer is always yes and. There's so much unlearning. So you have the actual training as actors, but then you also have the experience that all of us have had as young children, where you had to kiss your auntie, you had to hug your granny, you had to finish dinner, you had like, it's really interesting when we start to break that down and understand that all of us have learned to override our boundaries.
100%. That's such a good point. Yeah. Big time.
So how did you become a scholar? Like where did that start?
I think I was always this person, but I feel like sex people, like I'm sure you were too, but what professionally happened, I graduated from high school and I went to community college. I wanted to be an English major because I love writing stories.
Yeah.
And I still do write. So keep your eyes peeled for my first fiction novel. It'll be coming out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so exciting.
I just finished the manuscript.
Oh
so
my
I'm
God.
really
Congratulations.
excited.
That's huge.
Thank you.
Wow.
But yeah, so I loved English writing or English literature writing. I was going to be an English lit major. So I went to community college. I transferred to UC Berkeley and hated the department. No offense. There were some teachers I really loved, and you know who you are. The other ones I just avoided.
Yeah, fair.
But I had a bad experience with a professor, was having a bad experience in the department. No one liked the way that I wrote, which was interesting coming from being the absolute best at my community college to being the worst at Berkeley. And so this was all my first semester. It was really difficult, but I took this one class in the gender and women studies department, and it was LGBT studies, queer studies. And that class was just like home, saving grace. Like I had come out as a queer person maybe 2 years before this. So I was learning about my own history. I was meeting other people, and I was just right where I belonged. And so I shifted my major. I completely switched departments and decided to study human sexuality. And I'm so grateful now that I didn't fit in with the department I originally chose, because I wasn't meant to be there, not in that capacity. And so that was sort of how my professional journey started. And after I graduated, I worked a few odd jobs, but I never left this work.
Yeah.
And in 2019, I decided to not do anything else. And I started my company, Pleasure Science. And now we're here.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's so we have a lot of things in common.
I feel that too, because you'll be talking and I don't want to like interrupt. But I'm like, oh my God, me too.
I know.
Wait, me too also.
Yeah, because I went to college to be an English teacher.
Ooh.
Because I had a teacher, you were saying something about this similarly before, but I had a teacher that he did the theater program, and someone was like, well, if you love acting so much, why are you here? Because I grew up on stage and acting and all of that stuff, like singing, acting, dancing, all of it. And so one of the students was like, well, why are you a teacher if you love that? And he's like, well, the syllabus is my script. You're my audience. This is my stage. I'm performing every single day.
Oh,
what more could I want? But I was like, oh, that sounds like a good, safe idea.
Yeah.
And so I went to school to be an English teacher, thinking I would do English and the theater program. Great, done, easy life, whatever. Did not fit in. I had to do this. It was like a yellow brick road kind of a thing of like a visual pathway of how you got to this major. Everything had to do with performing and entertaining. Everything.
Wow.
And so then I was like, okay, I think I have to go.
Yeah.
And then I transferred into mass communication and production.
Oh,
and so,
that.
I've been producing and doing this work for 20 years now. So it's those are like, they're little gifts, but they're also, like now you're writing. So they are. And like now I'm in a position of teaching and I still do love performing and all of that. So it's like these little indicators, but to your point of following your gut.
Path. Yeah. I love it. I mean, we're a Leo and a Sagittarius, so we're
obviously we're like this.
We're good. Yeah, totally. Cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, exactly. I love my fire signs.
Oh my God, me too.
I keep finding myself in these little trifectas of Aries, Sag, and Aries, Sag. I mean, obviously I'm the Leo.
Yeah.
But I keep finding myself in like these little pockets of my friends that are like that. It's so fun.
Yeah. And all my friends are actually Virgos. So I love that you have Virgo placements, because my friends are either fire signs or Virgos.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense. Or
Pisces.
I am a Pisces rising.
I love it. No, both my parents had Virgo moons.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You had a very organized household?
Oh, yeah. But I have a Virgo midheaven, so I'm very organized and I'm so grateful. I love Virgo.
Yeah.
Virgo's a fertility goddess, not the virgin. Like I go over it in my book, and that's a whole history lesson that I don't know if we have time for today. But if you're a Virgo and you're listening to this, you were never meant to be thought of yourself as the virgin. That shift happened socially, politically, and culturally from the 14th century until now. So Virgo, the constellation Virgo, for thousands of years was seen as a fertility goddess. Isis was a Virgo. Demeter was a Virgo. A lot of major goddesses were connected to this constellation, and the constellation is actually the outline of a woman holding a sheath of grain, because in ancient times grain was considered to help with pregnancy and fertility. And actually Harvard came out with a study in 2016 that does prove that grain does actually help with fertility.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
I love your brain so much.
It's
like
fun
I could
in
listen to
here.
you talk
It's fun
all
in here.
day.
Yeah.
Your book launch was like, oh my, it was so good. It was so much fun. And so before we go really quickly, you were talking about the art. Well, I don't even know if we mentioned the archetypes, but they all have archetypes.
Yes, in the book, every single astrology sign has the sexual subconscious archetype, because I don't know. I think that there are so many ways you can reframe what you might not think as a strength, or view your obstacles as things that are actually protecting you, guiding you. We live in a very kind universe, even though really cruel things happen. But I always like to think that, when it comes to the journey of your life, you're never going to be told no from the universe. The only answers you'll ever get are yes, not right now, or I have something better. And I tried to put that kind of kindness into the erotic subconscious archetypes too, because your subconscious influences the way you self-sabotage. So we can be very hard on ourselves and very mean to ourselves. But actually, what's really happening with your sexual subconscious, you just have needs that need to be met. Your needs will find ways to get met, whether you're conscious of them or not. And that's how self-sabotage can happen. But the moment you become conscious of these things, self-sabotage gets interrupted and those things stop. And so I could, the subconscious, neuroscience, all of these things in psychology are really fun elements of this work.
It's
And
so fascinating.
yeah.
And all the influences and all of the things.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness. Where can people find you? And I'm going to hold up the book for anybody on YouTube while you tell us.
Yes. Well, my company is called Pleasure Science, which is much easier than my name, Nadège. So you don't need to worry about how to spell my name. You could go to pleasurescience.com. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Pleasure Science. Check out my sex coaching program, The 60-Day Sex Breakthrough.
Yeah.
The Sextrology book is available on Amazon. And you can also go to pleasurescience.com to learn more about that.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate
you. For having me.
If you like this episode and podcast and all that stuff, then like, subscribe, leave a 5-star review. This baby is in its infancy, so please help me grow big and strong so I can have more interesting people like Nadège on this show. And if you know someone who might be interested in sextrology, send them this episode.
Yeah, I also do sextrology chart readings. I didn't even mention that.
Oh my
God. But if
God.
you want your chart read, go to pleasurescience.com because, I can do that.
So
And
cool.
support this podcast. Sex education is really important.
Yeah, normalize the conversations and let's get weird and silly and fun and all those things.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
This one's to you, Chad.
This one's to you, Chad. I'm going to have to name this episode something about Chad.
Give him an honorable mention.
An honorable mention. Like, I don't know, don't give Chad a blowjob.
Ask for Chad to give you the blowjob first, and then you give Chad the blowjob.
That's right.
Chad, continue fucking shit up in the chapel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
and
it.
Actually, just as a quick sidebar, oftentimes, if you are in a cis straight relationship, a hetero relationship where there is a penis and there is a vulva, if you take care of that vulva first, it takes off a lot of pressure from you, the person with a penis. So 100%. It's not about like I go first or girls go first or anything like that. It actually helps you relax into your pleasure too if you can take care of that other person first, and then there's a lot over that. So that's one last bonus tip. Okay, that's it. Goodbye.